one on HS2. I find the whole HS2 situation funny, to be honest, because to me it represents the normal bad management of large infrastructure projects in the UK. Now they've said this is something that was initially supposed to be ready for 2026, now might take up to 2036. It's already potentially 70 billion pounds over budget, and it doesn't go into the northeast, right? It's going to go as far as Leeds. Maybe if the second section goes ahead, we don't know. So I find the whole situation funny. I thought it was interesting that that the Prime Minister decided to support it. I mean, at this stage, it's difficult to say we're going to cancel the whole project. But I still think it wouldn't have been a straightforward decision to support it, because somebody who won some seats in the northeast that they wouldn't have won under normal circumstances now has to own the mess of HS2 if it doesn't go well over the next 10 years. And on top of that, it doesn't even go to the northeast, right? We're talking about winning all of these new northerners. It doesn't go there. So how do you then say, oh look, we've got your interests at heart, Northern Powerhouse, and so on and so forth?
So can I ask a quick question? Do you see the need for a piece of infrastructure like this?
Me personally, I don't. I don't think it was worth all of this to make it 20 minutes faster to get between London and Birmingham. I personally don't. I like the idea, but I don't think it was necessary, and actually I would have chosen to do other things.
Okay. I would argue that you should try and travel from Manchester to Leeds and see how long it takes you.
It takes 50 minutes.
How long does it take?
It takes 50 minutes.
I don't think that's correct.
It takes 50 minutes.
Manchester to Leeds.
It takes 50 minutes. You can. There are two trains. There's a fast train and a slow train. The fast train goes in about 50 minutes. The slow train goes in 1 hour 14 minutes.
Wait, so Anthony, do you see the need for a piece of infrastructure?
100%.
Yeah, but that's the point though. The HS2 doesn't go between Manchester and Leeds.
No, true. I'm giving an example.
Right.
But the point that I'm making is that. 55 minutes. Okay, I stand corrected. The point that I'm making is that if you look at infrastructure in the north, it is very, very difficult to travel in between cities, in northern cities. It takes a lot longer to travel around. All right, I'm not going to argue for HS2 because I think the government made the right decision in improving it. Infrastructure helps open up economic routes. It helps establish new ways people can travel, which helps with the economy. It creates new jobs. It brings new benefits to the area. It brings more tourism. So there's a lot of benefits there that infrastructure brings. What I will say though is that we need better infrastructure in this country, and there has to be that public investment that goes behind it. If you think about government projects when it relates to infrastructure, they have never really been on time and within the budget that they set out, because
Wembley Stadium,
ultimately
Olympics,
the Millennium Bridge or the Swindon Bridge. But the point that I make,
what was the Thames Barrier?
The point that I make is ultimately engineering is a difficult creating an engineering piece. And a piece of infrastructure is quite complicated and complex, and as politicians they don't understand that. It's not easy to say, oh, we're just going to build over there, because ultimately you may choose to build up, but there is a legislation and process that you have to go by, undertaking consultation. What if you have someone objecting? It takes a while. There are a lot of legal fees to such things, and that's why you see these kind of delays. And HS2 needed to go ahead because they've already undertaken that process. They've gotten so far, they've spent so much that it is now a shovel ready scheme ready to go, and ultimately that's why it has to go ahead it has to go forward. We cannot afford to be dropping infrastructure because we've spent so much. But I mean, let me clarify that. All right, let me clarify that because it's left open to interpretation.
I was about to.
What I mean is that it's a key piece of infrastructure, and I in my view, the benefits far outweigh dropping it. And ultimately, once implemented and once established, you will start to see that yielded economic benefit that infrastructure brings. Ultimately, if you look at where I live, you have Crossrail coming, which has been delayed. But ultimately, once Crossrail comes, I can get to Heathrow in 50 minutes. Once Crossrail comes, I can get to Canary Wharf in about 11 minutes. That's something that wasn't possible without that key piece of infrastructure. Now, Crossrail is delayed, it is over budget, but once it comes, someone where I live can travel 11 minutes and it allows them to get to work quicker, and it allows them to do more with their time. And that's the importance of infrastructure here.
I mean, I think for me, this whole, again, like you say, I think it does illustrate the poorness of how infrastructure projects get dealt with in the UK generally, because I just think time and time again we have so many instances where, you know, we set up projects and they don't deliver in the time that they're meant to. And I think it kind of goes back to that whole thing that we were talking about before in terms of ideology. So people have these wonderful ideas and think, yeah, this is great, this will appeal to the electorate, let's put it out there. But then when the reality hits in terms of how long it's going to take, how much money it's going to cost, then it's like, you know, this is ridiculous. We're talking, we're in 2020, HS2 has been talked about for the last 5-6 years at least. It's not going to get built for another 15 or 16 years. I mean, can you imagine how ridiculous this is sounding right now? And yet you're wanting to appeal to the Northerners and say, listen, we've got this great project coming on. To me, it's like saying, you know what, we've got this money. If suddenly we're going to find these extra billions. Yes, we might have invested so far and we've done all of this, but that doesn't mean we have to follow through. And I think part of that is about politicians being honest and saying, you know what, we got this wrong. You know, we hold our hands up. We've spent public money, yes. We apologise for that, yes, but actually this is what we're going to do to fix the situation. So we're going to take this money, we're going to invest it in other ways. So maybe we might improve the road structures for people so they can use the roads a bit more, or we're going to improve the existing services that we've got to enable that. I mean, for me, spending the next 15, 16, 17 years building something just so that it shaves off 20 minutes to get from Euston to Birmingham New Street is a complete waste of time and money, and actually it's an insult to the intelligence of people, especially in the north, to say, you know, we're doing this wonderful thing for you, when actually the reality is they probably are not going to benefit that much anyway. So what, you get to shave maybe 3 or 4 minutes off between your journey from Manchester to Leeds. Okay, so
can I just quickly,
just like last comments, because this is not supposed to be a long.
Can I just quickly interject and say that if Boris Johnson wants to be truly radical in his political promises, he should scrap HS2 and invest the money in the north that was intended for the project. That way, he can simply say, "Hi there, I'm Santa Claus. HS2 money, I'm going to spread it on, spend it to the Northerners. The Northerners will absolutely immortalise Boris Johnson, and most probably he won't lose another election, because what he would do is, if he's smart and he's clinical, where he fails in one area, he should use the Northerners as a balancing act, and that's where the chess playing comes into effect. Solidify his base with the very base that got him his 80-seat majority. It's politics.
All right, Amara, any comments?
Not really.
Okay.
I feel as though realistically that it's going to be something that, how do I phrase this? A high-speed rail to the north was going to come regardless. Like it's only going to be a matter of time. The planning has been poor, the execution has been poor, a lot of time has been wasted, but it is something that, if it doesn't happen now, it's going to happen in 50 years. If it doesn't happen in 50 years, it will happen in 100 years. So my personal opinion on this is that now we've started it, let's just continue and let's just do better going forward with it.
Anthony, you got a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to say a few things. I have to declare an interest here because obviously my background is in infrastructure and I studied engineering, so I always see the need for infrastructure and I always see the benefits that it can bring. But ultimately, I travel to Manchester a lot, okay, and I can tell you, traveling to Manchester it takes a while. It doesn't.
Yes, it doesn't. It takes 2 hours. It takes 2 hours.
It takes a while.
It takes 2 hours.
Sorry, excuse me.
You can't even watch a movie in that time.
Sorry. It takes a while. Traveling from London to maybe Somerset takes a while as well.
That's true.
Okay,
Yeah. That's true.
So the point is, we do need high-speed rail lines and all of that bullet train lovely stuff that we see being developed in China. But ultimately, HS2 is going to cut down a whole my journey from London to Manchester.
20 minutes.
But much more than that. It's now 1 hour, 1 hour 7 minutes from me to get to Manchester if HS2 is established, which is a
What do you mean it's now?
Which
But it's not already. They're not going to sit on that train for 10 years.
So the point that I make is that there are significant benefits that come with infrastructure, and I know you make that case idea about taking the money and putting in there, but ultimately, if it takes you 2 hours to sit on a train just to get from one location to another, you want to reduce that. All right. People move around in cities, and ultimately you want to be able to allow people to travel to different places. That's how you get an economy moving. Infrastructure-led development is the best thing. It's how you create economies. It's almost how you bring about new jobs. That's why if you're building housing, you want infrastructure there. If we are looking to reduce if you're looking to support our commitments to carbon energy, you want to make sure that there's more infrastructure, so you're not relying on cars.